Now, today's episode is a little bit different. There's going to be no photos in this one, just me staring at the camera. And it's a little weird to stare down the camera when there's nobody around. It really kind of freaks me out sometimes. But it's fine, I think. And today's episode is a little bit different than my other episodes. By a little bit, I mean a lot, and by a lot, I mean completely. Today's episode will be produced on July 17th. And will only release on August 17th, no earlier than 2:30 p.m. Central Time, because that is my move-in date for college. And today's episode is about my favorite memories with everybody in the family. And if somebody somehow finds this channel between now and when I move in, I don't need this being on there and then people getting sappy. I'm sorry. Forward thinking, all right? So it'll be locked until my move-in date, in which event I'll tell you guys about this channel, and then you'll find the video, and then I'm gonna deal with all this happiness. It's called forward thinking. I'm good at it sometimes. So yeah. So I organized you by like groups of like where you guys live. So like all the Springdale people, all the Seattle people, Grandma Julie, Grandpa Owen, and then Mama Bear and Art. So you guys can scroll to, roughly where in the video your group would lie, that you don't have to, watch everybody else's. But I also kind of suck at editing, so we'll see how it goes. Now, first off in the group is going to be Mom, because, Mom. And I would say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that my favorite memory would be that Europe trip. And everybody else has like a couple of memories that I would pick, but this Europe trip was just so incredibly good, I don't think I could choose anything else and be correct. Like I just don't think there is a different memory that would be better. And if you asked me to pick a specific part in that trip of which was my favorite, I really couldn't. And saying that I could would be an injustice to the rest of the trip. Like even the 7-hour drive out to Normandy with, the expectations of it being like the greatest thing in the world, and then it was kind of just like, like it was cool. It was very cool. I'm glad we went, but it wasn't like plated in gold with doves flying overhead. Even that was still just wildly cool. Or anything in Ypres, anything in Vimy, anything in Sedan, anything really anywhere. The mortar that we got classified as a paperweight, and you didn't know exactly what it was. And the night before the flight, I was absolutely tweaking out because I had second thoughts about bringing a mortar through TSA, even though it was inert and we had the paperwork for it. And you were like getting worried for some other reason. I don't know why you were getting worried, because we got back home and then I explained what it was. You're like, we brought a bomb through the airport. What did you think it was? So really, any of those, the collapsing tunnel at Hill 42 is a pretty good one. Really, any part of that Europe trip, I could confidently say was probably my favorite memory, because it was just so cool, the coolest. Or the trip to OU, and we got ice cream from the Baked Bear, and there were two skunks, and both of them raised their tails at us, and I don't think I've ever ran as fast in my life and worried so much for my life in any one moment. So either of those would be very solid options. Now, Nona, I can think of two directly off the top of my head that come very close to each other, and then a third one. The first one would be the flight that me and you took. And you were the first person that I ever took up on a flight with me. And it was like 2 days after I got my license. And I was absolutely terrified to bring somebody up with me because I did not think that I was ready, but I did it anyway. And the flight turned out beautifully. And I would say that is either my first or a very close second favorite memory. The other one would be the trip to Kansas City. And trying to pick a specific point on that trip would also be an injustice to the rest of that trip as well. The World War I Museum, even though it was smaller than we thought it was going to be, was fantastic. The absolute mad dash through the city because the on-ramp to the highway was not open, and the detour took us through the sketchiest part of town where we had a line of cars behind us. You could tell all of them were just trying to get to the interstate, and people were running stop signs. The doors were locked, the windows were locked, eyes were fixed forward. And then we get to the surplus stores, and they looked like they were going to shoot us the entire time. Bodies weren't going to be found. We were just going to disappear. The like IKEA sized antique mall was a pretty good one. The drive back home with the severe storms north of us that was dropping hail, and the storms that had hit Springdale that day that were also dropping hail. So like we were weaving in between storms. That's a really good option as well. And then a third one would probably be the OU UNC game. And this kind of goes for both you and Grandpa. But the UNC game where finally I ended up watching OU win a game, and we ended up in the absolute most perfect section to end the game, and it was raining, and we didn't think it was going to happen, and then it ended up happening. We got to watch the whole thing. That was absolutely amazing. I don't know, but specifically with you, I'd say either the flight or Kansas City. You and Grandpa, it's definitely the OU versus UNC game. That was fantastic. Now, Grandpa, it comes down to two things, and one of them is a collection of things. So really, it comes down to a bunch. It's really hard to pick a specific memory with anybody. It's a lot harder than I thought it was. I've been looking at photos for the better part of an hour trying to figure out like what's my favorite memory with people, and I can't find any one specific one with anybody other than the Europe trip with Mom, because that was just amazing. Grandpa, I'd say it is any of the air shows we had gone to. Top three that come to mind would be Little Rock, me, you, RJ, with all of the like military like exercises. The 300 people jumping out of C-130s all in one go was absolutely insane, and one guy ended up in a tree. That was probably the coolest thing I think I've seen at an air show. Or the air show in Kansas where we were like right up on the fence, and it was just insane. The wall of fire happened, and you could just like feel the heat, and it was so hot, and everybody had to turn away because everybody's eyes were like all singed because it was so hot. I would say that's a pretty good one too. Or Tinker, where the winds were so heavy that they had to cancel all the paratroopers because they would have blown like 3 miles off course. And then probably, if we're being honest, my favorite memory would be the OU versus Alabama game. But only the first half minus the last 5 minutes of the second quarter. Because we were sitting there, and I went to go get us M&Ms. And when I left, we had a 17-point lead. It was 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And by the time I came back, somehow Alabama was up 3 points. And I remember standing in line for the M&Ms, and I heard cheering, and it was going insane. I was like, man, we're really winning this one. Like, I can't believe that I got to go to the playoff game, and I got to watch OU beat the brakes off Alabama. And then I come back, and I'm like, how did they do that in the span of 10 minutes? And you're just like, I don't know. And people were funneling out left and right, and we stayed the entire time. I'd say that probably my favorite. It's probably better than the air shows. So that was just absolutely insane to say that I got to go to an OU playoff game. So probably that. And then again, the OU versus UNC game for a shared memory. Any of those would be very solid memories to choose from. Now for the final person in Springdale, RJ, it's not any one thing. Again, it'd be a collection of things. I would say that my favorite memory with you would be you keeping me up to date on all of the Marvel and Star Wars and DC and pretty much any movie that came out. I think for a solid like 3 years, we were at the movie theaters like once a month at least, watching whatever movie came out. I mean, we watched such stupid movies. We went to go watch Moonfall, which was so stupid. It keeps unfocusing. Come on. Yeah. I'd say that's probably my favorite. There was Eternals that we went to go watch, and that was so bad that we thought about leaving early. But even then, it was so bad that I kind of look on it in a good way because it was so bad. Or I'd probably say that No Time to Die was one of my favorite movies. Not because it was so good, but because it was like the final movie with Daniel Craig, and I thought they ended it beautifully, and you thought that it sucked. But I thought it was great. Or just a ton of other movies. Mission Impossible. say really bad shows, Secret Invasion. I don't think I will ever forgive you for making me watch Secret Invasion with you. That show was one of the worst shows I think I have ever seen in my life. Oh man, was it ever. Andor was really good though. And Moon Knight. I really wish they made a second season of Moon Knight. Really glad that you made me watch Moon Knight with you. That was really good. So really, like any movie or show that we watch, and if I ever have a trivia night at OU and somebody asks me some Marvel or Star Wars question, there's a very good chance that I'll answer it because you like watched it with me. And if you hadn't watched all those Marvel movies with me, I'd probably be so out of the loop on like the Star Wars and like Marvel universe, it'd be crazy. But I'm not, because you dragged me to pretty much all the movies and shows. And for most of them, I'll thank you. Most of them, I say they were pretty good. Some of them were absolutely atrocious. Really, really bad. Now, for the Seattle people, starting with Dad, I would say that there is one very recent memory that comes to mind, one memory that happened a while ago, and then one memory that happened a fairly long time ago. And any of them would be good ones. The most recent one would be the trip that we went on to go see the like sea museum that was in Astoria, and then we went to go see the place that Lewis and Clark ended their expedition on Cape Disappointment. And I was like, we should go see the exact marker that Lewis and Clark ended on. And then we tried to go over there, and the road was closed, and we got disappointed on Cape Disappointment. I feel like that really tied together that whole trip. Was really got disappointed on Cape Disappointment. And then we went to go to the like super large coastal fort, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but that was really cool. And then we went to go see the shipwreck, or what was left of it, and then I got attacked by the ocean, and my shoes got soaking wet, and they never really recovered, and they never really got dry. I would say that's probably my favorite recent memory. Or the Boeing Seafair, watching those stupidly fast, high-speed boats, and then the Catalina come into land. It's the only time I've ever seen a Catalina fly, let alone land on the water. That was absolutely insane. And then it ended with us doing like a 1 mile sprint back to the bus, and I don't think I've ever ran as fast as I have that day. That, I'd say that the first half of that day was fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And then probably my favorite memory with you was the month-long stint that me and you did basically in house arrest during the very first months of COVID, where I came up to your apartment in Virginia, and we were locked in there for 2 weeks, and we played Axis and Allies, and then we played Flames of War, and you beat me so bad at Flames of War that I ended up crying. And then we played a second round, and you beat me so bad I ended up crying. And then you gave me the third game. And we used like crackers and stuff to like use terror like as terrain. And we watched just an impossible amount of movies and shows. I think I've watched more movies with you than I will with anybody else in my lifetime. Probably the next 3 people in my life combined, I won't watch as many movies with as I did with you. I don't even know what my favorite movie I watched with you would be. Probably Shutter Island. Honestly, I still think Shutter Island was fantastic. Pacific Rim was really good. Pacific Rim Uprising sucked. But I'd say that any of those would be a very solid contender as my favorite memory. Now, for Ray, there is 2 very solid memories that I can think of. The first one would be the orcas, obviously. And this goes for you and Pearl. So if you're watching this, Pearl, hi, this is for you too as well. I would say the orcas, because that was just absolutely insane. The orca that was bigger than our boat coming up to us, close enough that he almost bumped us, mean mugging us the entire time, and I'm sitting over there thinking like, yep, I'm gonna die to an orca, because Ray wanted to go see the orcas and we were following the Facebook page. And then we didn't die, and it turned out to be absolutely fantastic, watching an orca breach like 10 feet away and swimming so close to the boat that you could reach out and touch it. And we didn't. And we didn't purposely go after the orcas. They came to us, just in case there's, any feds watching this. I'd say that that's a pretty solid contender. Probably the leading contender. Or there was one time where we were up in upstate New York, and there was a tornado warning, and you were like, "There's a tornado warning," and you were like, "What do we do?" I was like, "There's not a tornado warning. There's no way." Like, it's upstate New York. And like, as I'm saying this, my phone blows up with the tornado warning. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, there's a tornado warning." Like, I didn't think y'all got these up here. Absolutely blown away that you guys got tornadoes up there. Or it wasn't necessarily like a super, like this is the funnest thing in the world memory, but it was very impactful. And I would say you helping me with my OU application, like reading over my essays, making sure that they didn't absolutely suck, and I got in. So you played some part at least in me getting into OU. So I'd say any of those would be pretty solid memories, and any of those would be very legit choices. Now, for Pearl, again, it'd be the Orcas, or I would say any of the flights that we took together, either to DC or to Atlanta. I think is what we did. Me and Proto Atlanta, and then we met Dad and Ray there for Grandpa Owen's retirement flight, or the flights out to Seattle, where we sat in the very back row, and they gave Pearl the metal card, and Pearl talked to the flight attendant for so long that the flight attendant had to pull herself away, and Pearl was talking to her the entire time, and they were having the most fun, and Pearl was telling her all about her tower and the sound and all the other things we were going to go see, and how excited she was to see Ray, how excited she was to see Finn, and how excited she was to see Luna. And I was like, "What about Dad?" And she goes, "And Dad." She was not as hyped. So I'd say either the Orcas or any of the flights that we took would be pretty solid contenders. And then now for Grandpa Owen, I would say that it comes down to two memories. First one would be Sun and Fun in March of 25 or 24, one of the two. And I got the absolute nastiest sunburn. I mean, it was like criminal levels of a sunburn, and my arms are peeling. I was super sunburned. I don't know how you didn't get sunburned. And there was just an impossible amount of planes there, and the whole expo was there. There was like 10 P-51s there. We ended up taking shelter from the sun under just an impossible amount of planes. We ended up getting like top of the line seats under this little PT-19 trainer, and it was like barely big enough for us to put our chairs under and sit in them. And then we got like really good center line seats for the air show. And then there was the night show, and it was your first night show, and they had the drones and the Titan team that was super loud in their T6s. I'd say that probably takes it. It's my favorite memory with you. Or I would say waking up in the morning and playing the golf game on the Wii. And I'm blanking on the name of it, but I was always Tiger Woods and you were always John Daly. And the controller never fully synced, so you would thwack it, and half the time the ball would go veering off to the left. Just absolutely abysmal hits. To either of those would be pretty solid. I'd also say that flying with you in your little plane before I got my license, it's a pretty good one. I can't wait to fly with you now that I have my license and I can sit in the proper seat of the aircraft on the left side. So any of those would work as solid contenders. Now, for Grandma Julie, it would be probably in the mornings eating pan or pancakes or waffles or whatever else Grandpa Owen made that day, and watching whatever show was on at the time. That it's not any one day, obviously. It feels like any of those days would be very solid options. Or there was one time where you were working on quilts for everybody, and me and you were sitting in your back office as you were making them, I think. No, we might have been in the living room when you were making them. But we were in the living room, and we just sat there for an hour and a half as you made the quilts. And I'd say that's a very solid option as one of those. Or any of the times that we were going back and forth in the little like area in front of the house on like the little moped or the green machine, whatever. Blanking on what the street name was called. It was like the little area back and forth. I'd say any of those would be very solid options. I can't narrow it down to one or even two. Or there's one time where we went to the National Zoo and we were looking at the otters, and there was like 3 otters going absolutely psychotic in the back corner. The most hyped otters I think I've ever seen. They actually looked like they were on cocaine. Like if you've told me that they were on cocaine, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, and I wouldn't question you at all. So any of those. Now for Mama Bear and Art, I would say that it really is a pretty solid choice by just Lake George. Anything we did at Lake George, the like 3 straight years we went. And there was one time we were at the fun spot, and Art, Dad, and I did the go-kart so much that we ended up like inhaling too many fumes and we all had headaches really bad. Or walking around the park and we were all doing the bumper cars and somebody hit another person so hard that they fell out of the bumper car. That's a pretty solid one. Or specifically from Mama Bear, I would say one time we were on a roller coaster. I'm blanking on what roller coaster it was, but you taught some little kid in the rows ahead of us like 12 new words. Like they learned so many new things. Any of those, or Art with the side by side, or driving y'all's like super nice car. And it was the first time that I ever drove a car that had like a HUD on it for like a fighter jet, driving that around. To any of those be pretty solid choices. Or with your house, we were living in the farmhouse and we went up to camp and we were up at camp for a while. That was really pretty. And I just thought I thought it was really pretty being up at camp because it was all surrounded by woods. And it was a little scary, not gonna lie. Now I find the woods a little scary. Like I don't know. But it was still really pretty, and I still think about that a fair bit. So any of those would be pretty solid. Or there's one time you guys came down to DC, and while you guys were down in DC, we took you guys to an amusement park, and Mama Bear also taught a bunch of kids new words there too. So really, it just revolves around Mama Bear teaching kids new words, and Art and I going on go-karts until we all had headaches because we inhaled too many fumes. So really, any of those would be solid options as my favorite memories with you guys. So yeah. Now, all of this to say that these are not my only memories with you guys. I have so many other memories that I absolutely love thinking about with everybody in this video. I just don't have a whole lot of time to say it. I try to keep these around 20 to 25 minutes because if you go over 25, it takes forever to load, and sometimes it doesn't. It's chaos trying to upload it to YouTube. I'm also just not good at editing. But yeah, I recorded this in one take. I have not left this chair. I've like cut it so I could take a sip of water, but I haven't like left the chair. And I could go on and on and on about different memories. But again, by the time this video gets posted, I will be at my first night of college. So whenever you see this, the day that I'm at college, day after that, whenever, just know that I'm probably having a good time. I'm pretty excited. So, yeah.